"I'll take care of the mail, Mom. You just rest," my daughter Rebecca said, scooping the stack of envelopes off my kitchen counter before I could reach for them. She smiled, but her hand moved too quickly, and I caught the way her husband Marcus glanced at the door, as if calculating how fast they could leave. I'd only been home from their house for an hour. 3 weeks I'd stayed with them after Henry's funeral, letting Rebecca handle what she called the administrative nightmare of death. I was grateful then, too hollowed out by grief to care about paperwork. But standing in my own kitchen again, watching her tuck my mail under her arm like it was hers to keep, something shifted in my chest. A small voice I'd been ignoring for weeks finally spoke up. "Why? It's just bills and junk," she added, lightly, already moving toward the door, Marcus trailing behind her. "I'll sort through it at home tonight and bring back anything important. You don't need the stress right now." I nodded, though I didn't remember asking her to take it. The door clicked shut behind them, and I stood there in the sudden quiet, my hands empty, my house feeling less like mine than it had an hour ago. Outside the window, their car backed out of the driveway too fast, gravel spitting under the tires. I made tea. I'd made 1,000 cups of tea in this kitchen over 43 years of marriage, and now I made them alone. The kettle whistled. I poured, and I sat at the table where Henry and I used to do crossword puzzles on Sunday mornings. His chair still looked like it was waiting for him. I wrapped my hands around the mug and tried to remember if Rebecca had always been this helpful, or if something about the last 6 months had changed between us. The grief had been heavy, but it wasn't complicated. Henry had been sick for 2 years. We'd known it was coming. When he finally went in April, I felt more relief than shock. Relief that he wasn't in pain anymore. Relief that I'd kept my promise to let him die at home. But then came the bills. The calls from the insurance company, the mortgage people, the credit card companies. Rebecca had swooped in like an angel. "Let me handle this, Mom. You shouldn't have to deal with it. I'll make the calls. I'll file the claims. Just sign where I put the sticky notes." And I had signed, again and again. Sticky notes marking the lines. I was 68 years old, a retired librarian who'd spent decades organizing information for other people. But when it came to my own husband's death, I'd let my daughter take the wheel. Maybe that was grief. Maybe that was trust. Or maybe it was the first mistake. The next morning, I woke to find my neighbor Eleanor standing on my porch, holding a plastic grocery bag stuffed with mail. "Dorothy," she called through the screen door, "I've been collecting this for you while you were gone. It kept piling up in your box, and I didn't want it to get stolen." I opened the door and took the bag, heavy with envelopes, some of them bent and wrinkled from being shoved in. "I thought Rebecca was picking up my mail," I said. Eleanor frowned. "I never saw her here, not once in 3 weeks. That's why I started grabbing it. Your box was overflowing." I stared at the bag. If Rebecca hadn't been picking up my mail, where had it been going? And why had she just taken today's stack so deliberately? "You okay, Dot?" Eleanor asked. Her eyes, sharp behind her glasses, studied me the way a librarian studies a misshelved book. "I'm fine," I said. "Thank you for this." After she left, I dumped the bag onto the kitchen table. Bank statements, credit card offers, a thick envelope from Metropolitan Life Insurance. I tore it open. Inside was a letter dated 5 weeks earlier. "Dear Mrs. Dorothy Callahan, we are pleased to inform you that your claim has been processed. The death benefit amount of $150,000 has been deposited into your account ending in 7432. My breath caught. $150,000. Henry's life insurance. I'd known it existed, known Rebecca was handling the claim, but I hadn't known it had already been paid 5 weeks ago. While I was still staying at her house, signing papers with sticky notes, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The password still worked, the one Henry and I had set up together. The screen loaded. Checking account balance, $237. I scrolled down. No deposit of $150,000. No deposit of anything except my small pension payment from the county library system. I checked the savings account. $4,000, the same amount that had been there before Henry died. The room tilted. I set the phone down carefully, as if it might explode. Then I picked it up again and checked the account number on the insurance letter, ending in 7432. I looked at my phone. My checking account ended in 7432. This was the right account. The money had been deposited here, and now it was gone. I called the bank. It took 15 minutes of holding and 3 transfers before I reached a manager named Patricia who pulled up my account. "Mrs. Callahan," she said, "I see the deposit you're asking about. It came in on September 14th, $150,000 from Metropolitan Life. Where did it go?" I asked. My voice sounded thin even to my own ears. There was a pause. "I see multiple transfers. Let me pull the details." A series of clicks. On September 15th, there was a wire transfer of $60,000 to an account at First National. Then, on September 21st, another wire transfer of $45,000 to the same account. And on October 2nd, a third wire transfer of $40,000. "That's $145,000, I said. "Yes, ma'am." The remaining $5,000 was transferred on October 9th. I didn't authorize those transfers. Another pause, longer this time. "Mrs. Callahan, these transfers were made using your online banking login. They were also verified through the phone number and email on file." "What phone number?" Patricia read it off. I didn't recognize it. "What email?" She read that too. Rebecca.klahan.help@gmail.com. I'd never seen that email address in my life, but I knew exactly who'd created it. "Someone stole my money," I said. Patricia's voice shifted, professional sympathy clicking into place. "I'm going to flag this account immediately and start a fraud investigation. You'll need to come into the branch today, if possible, to file a formal report and verify your identity. We'll also need to freeze the account to prevent further unauthorized activity. I'll be there in an hour." I hung up and sat very still. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Outside, a cardinal landed on the fence, bright red against the gray November sky. Henry had loved cardinals. He used to say they were good luck. I wasn't sure I believed in luck anymore. I picked up another envelope from the pile, this one from the county clerk's office. Inside was a notice about a property deed transfer request. It had been filed 3 weeks ago. The property in question was my house. The requester was Rebecca Callahan Torres, listed as power of attorney. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. She was trying to transfer my house into her name. The next envelope was from a credit card company welcoming me as a new customer. I hadn't applied for a credit card. But according to the letter, an account had been opened in my name on September 20th with a credit limit of $15,000. Current balance, $14,800. I spread the envelopes across the table like evidence at a crime scene, because that's what this was. Not a misunderstanding, not an accident, a crime. My daughter had stolen my husband's life insurance. She'd tried to steal my house. She'd opened credit cards in my name and maxed them out, all while I sat in her guest room, crying into my tea, signing papers I didn't read because I trusted her. The cardinal flew away. I drove to the bank. Patricia met me at the door and walked me into a private office where we spent 2 hours going through every transaction on my account for the last 6 months. The pattern was clear. After Henry died, small, legitimate transactions. His final hospital bill, the funeral home, flowers. Then in September, after the insurance payout, the bleeding started. Big transfers, cash withdrawals I hadn't made, checks written to people I didn't know. "This is elder financial abuse," Patricia said quietly. "We see it more often than you'd think. Usually it's family members." "My daughter?" I said. The words tasted like rust. "I'm sorry. We'll freeze everything immediately. You'll need to file a police report and get an attorney. We can help you with the fraud claim, but the criminal aspect is beyond our scope." She handed me a folder of printed statements, each page highlighted in yellow where the fraud occurred. I took it, my hands steadier than I expected. Maybe shock was a kind of strength. At home, I called Michael Brennan, the lawyer who'd helped Henry and me update our wills 5 years ago. He listened without interrupting while I explained. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Dorothy," he finally said, "do you have power of attorney documents that you signed giving Rebecca access to your accounts?" "I don't know. She had me sign so many things after Henry died. There were sticky notes everywhere. Do you still have those documents?" "I don't think so. She took them with her. Said she'd file everything." He exhaled slowly. "All right. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm filing an emergency motion to revoke any power of attorney she might have. Second, we're changing your will immediately. Third, you need to get to the police station today and file a report. Bring every piece of evidence you have. What if she's already transferred the house? Then we fight it. But let's move fast. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? I'll be there at 9. After I hung up, I walked through my house room by room. Everything looked the same. Henry's jacket still hung in the hall closet. His glasses still sat on the nightstand, waiting for eyes that would never use them again. But underneath the familiar surface, everything had been hollowed out. My daughter had reached into my life and extracted what she wanted, leaving me with the shell. I made a list. Lock changes. New bank account at a different bank. Credit freeze with all 3 bureaus. Police report. Lawyer appointment. Each item was a small act of rebuilding the walls Rebecca had torn down. That night, my phone rang. Rebecca. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. "Mom, where have you been?" Her voice was bright, cheerful, like nothing had happened. "I've been trying to reach you all day." "I've been busy." "Busy with what? Are you feeling okay? You sound strange." "I'm fine. I just had some errands to run." "What kind of errands?" "Mom, you should have called me. Marcus and I could have helped. You shouldn't be driving around by yourself so soon after everything." I went to the bank. Silence. Then, "Why?" "To check on my account. Turns out someone's been making transfers without my permission." Her voice changed, the brightness dimming. "Mom, I can explain that. Those transfers were for your bills. Remember? You asked me to pay everything while you were staying with us. I asked you to pay the funeral home and the hospital. I didn't ask you to transfer $150,000 into your account." Another silence, colder this time. "Who told you that?" "The bank manager." "After I reported fraud." "You did what?" Her voice spiked. "Mom, you can't just go around accusing people of fraud. I'm your daughter. I was helping you by stealing my husband's life insurance." "I didn't steal anything. That money was supposed to go toward your care. You're 68 years old, and you just lost Dad. You're not thinking clearly. Marcus and I talked about it. We thought it would be better if we managed the money for you, made sure you didn't make any bad decisions. So you decided to steal it. It's not stealing if it's for your own good." Her voice had gone sharp now, defensive. "You should be thanking me for taking care of everything instead of calling the police like I'm some kind of criminal." "You are a criminal, Rebecca. You stole from me." She hung up. I sat holding the phone, my heart pounding but my hands calm. I'd said it out loud. I'd named what she'd done. And I wasn't taking it back. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Dorothy, please don't do this. Becca is devastated. She only wanted to help. Let's talk tomorrow and work this out as a family." Another text. "You're going to regret this if you keep going down this road. We're the only family you have left." I blocked both numbers. The next morning, I met Michael at his office. We spent 3 hours drafting documents. A new will that removed Rebecca entirely and left everything to charity. A revocation of any power of attorney she might claim. A living trust that locked my assets behind layers of legal protection. By the time we finished, my signature was cramped from writing it so many times, but I felt lighter than I had in months. The police report took another 2 hours. The detective, a tired-looking woman named Santos, took notes while I explained everything. She didn't seem surprised. "Unfortunately," she said when I finished, "these cases are hard to prosecute when it's family. The DA usually won't touch them unless there's clear evidence of force or coercion. Since you signed papers, even if you didn't know what they said, she can claim you gave permission. But I didn't give permission to steal $150,000. I know. And we'll investigate. But I want you to understand that the criminal case might not go anywhere. Your best bet is civil court. Sue her for the money. That's between you and your lawyer. So she just gets away with it?" Detective Santos looked at me with something like sympathy. "The law isn't always justice, Mrs. Callahan. But you've done the right thing by reporting it. That creates a paper trail, and sometimes that's enough to scare people straight." I left the station feeling hollowed out again, but this time in a different way. Not empty like I'd been robbed, but empty like I'd cleaned house. There was space now for something new. At home, I found Eleanor on my porch again, this time with a casserole. "I made too much," she said, but I knew she was lying. Eleanor had been watching out for me since Henry got sick. She was the friend who showed up without being asked. I invited her in, and we ate at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd spread out the evidence of my daughter's betrayal 2 days ago. "You've been through something," Eleanor said. It wasn't a question. Rebecca stole Henry's life insurance, and she tried to steal the house. Eleanor set down her fork. "I had a feeling something was wrong. I saw her here a few times while you were staying with them. She was loading boxes into her car from your garage. I almost said something, but I thought maybe you'd asked her to clean things out. I didn't ask her to take anything. I'm sorry, Dot. I should have checked with you. It's not your fault." I shook my head. "I'm the one who trusted her." "Trust isn't a fault." Eleanor reached across the table and took my hand. "What she did is her fault, not yours." That night, the calls started again. Not from Rebecca or Marcus, but from people I barely knew. Henry's cousin called to say I was being unreasonable. An old coworker from the library called to say families should work things out privately. Rebecca's best friend called to tell me I was breaking my daughter's heart. I listened to each voicemail without responding. The pattern was clear. Rebecca was recruiting an army of guilt. On the 4th day, they showed up. I heard the car in the driveway and looked out to see Rebecca and Marcus getting out, their faces grim. I met them at the door and didn't open it. "Mom, we need to talk," Rebecca said through the screen. "Face to face." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please." Marcus stood behind her, his arms crossed. "We can fix this." I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We stood on opposite sides of the threshold, the November wind cutting between us. "You can't fix theft," I said. Rebecca's eyes welled up. "I can't believe you're doing this. After everything I did for you, taking care of Dad, helping with the funeral, managing all that paperwork, and this is how you repay me? You stole $150,000. I was protecting you." She wiped her eyes, the tears coming fast now. "You were a mess, Mom. You couldn't make decisions. Marcus and I talked about it. We thought if we held on to the money for a while, we could help you invest it properly, make sure it lasted. We were going to give it back." When? Her mouth opened and closed. "Soon. We just needed to take care of some things first." "What things?" Marcus stepped forward. "Medical bills, Dorothy. Rebecca's been having health issues. We needed the money for treatment. Then you should have asked." "We did ask," Rebecca said. "Don't you remember? At Dad's funeral, I told you we were having financial problems, and you said family helps family. You said whatever we needed. I said you could have the leftover flowers and the extra food from the reception. I didn't say you could empty my bank account." Rebecca's face shifted, the tears drying up. "Fine, if that's how you want to play it. But don't come crying to us when you need help. You're not getting any younger, Mom. What are you going to do when you can't live alone anymore? Who's going to take care of you then? I'll hire someone. Someone I pay, who can't steal from me because they're not family." Rebecca flinched like I'd slapped her. You're really going to throw away our relationship over money? You threw it away when you stole from me. Marcus grabbed Rebecca's arm. Come on. She's not worth it. They turned and walked back to their car. At the end of the driveway, Rebecca rolled down her window. You're going to die alone, she shouted, and no one's going to care. I closed the door and locked it. Then I locked the deadbolt. Then I put the chain on. My hands didn't shake. Behind me, the house was quiet, and mine. The locksmith came the next day. New locks on every door, new keys that only I would have. The hardware was solid and heavy in my hands, the kind of weight that means security. After he left, I walked through the house testing each lock, the click of the bolt sliding home like punctuation at the end of a sentence. I was done. The weeks that followed were quieter. The phone calls slowed, then stopped. The guilt campaign faded. I opened a new bank account at a different bank across town, one where Rebecca had never set foot. I transferred what little money I had left and set up new passwords, new security questions, everything locked down tight. Michael filed the civil suit to recover the stolen money. It would take months, maybe years, but I had time. The house was safe. The deed transfer request denied. The credit cards opened in my name were closed and reported as fraud. Slowly, the pieces of my life reassembled into something that looked like stability. Eleanor came by often, sometimes with casseroles, sometimes just with company. We'd sit on the porch even as the weather turned colder, wrapped in blankets, drinking tea and watching the Cardinals fight over the feeder Henry had hung years ago. You did the right thing, she said one afternoon. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. It feels like I lost my daughter. You lost someone who was willing to steal from you. That's not the same as losing a daughter. A real daughter wouldn't have done what she did. I wanted to believe that. Some days I did. By December, the first snow came. I woke to find the yard blanketed in white, the world muffled and clean. I made coffee and stood at the kitchen window, watching the sun rise over the trees. Everything was different now. My bank account was smaller. My family was smaller. But my life was mine again, fully and completely mine, and no one was taking it from me. I thought about Henry, about how he'd worked so hard for that insurance policy, paying the premiums even when money was tight, wanting to make sure I'd be taken care of after he was gone. He'd wanted me to be secure, and I was, just not in the way he'd imagined. Not because of the money, most of that was gone, but because I'd learned something in the last 2 months. I'd learned that security isn't about how much you have, it's about knowing what you won't let anyone take. The doorbell rang. For a moment, my stomach clenched, thinking it might be Rebecca. But it was Eleanor, holding a bag of groceries. I brought breakfast, she said. Figured we could make pancakes. We cooked together in my warm kitchen, the smell of butter and syrup filling the air. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering everything in white, and I realized, standing there flipping pancakes with my friend, that I wasn't alone. I'd chosen this, chosen to protect myself even when it meant losing people I'd loved. And in that choice, I'd found something I didn't know I'd been missing. Myself. If you're reading this, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe someone you trusted has reached into your life and taken what wasn't theirs. Maybe you're standing where I stood 2 months ago, holding evidence of betrayal and wondering if you're strong enough to act. You are. Lock your doors. Change your passwords. Call your bank. Call your lawyer. Call the police if you need to. Don't let anyone tell you that family means letting them hurt you. Don't let anyone convince you that love requires you to be a victim. You get to protect yourself. You get to say no, and you don't need anyone's permission to do it. Not even family.